All right. Well, very welcome to the Gridiron. I'm just doing another special Memorial Day video. Now, I'm too much of a moron to remember. This is at least the third time I've done this video, if not the fourth. I started in March of 2021. So this will be the fourth Memorial Day on my channel. So it might possibly be the fourth time I've done this video. Whether you're man, woman, whatever armed forces you're in, thank you. I mean, just one of the biggest reasons why I'm able to sit here right in my living room, basically almost with my pajamas on, putting out a video in the middle of the night. The freedom that we enjoy. It's just greatest country in the world. Greatest country in the world, and there's so many people that you could obviously include in these videos that I do and stuff like that, just like on the Memorial Day. But it's always the same. I always bring up the same two, but it's not just I'm basically thanking just these two guys in particular. It's everybody. If you're in the armed forces, thank you. You guys absolutely freaking rock. Thank you. So, I said every Memorial Day I do Jack Lummus and Blozis, two giants among men. They were drafted basically. One was drafted in 1941, the next one was drafted in 1942, and I guess if you look at the thumbnail of this and all, all gave some gave all. Well, the ones who gave these two gave all in World War II. Jack Lummus was drafted by the Giants in 1941. Teddy, big glorious moment in Giants history, Super Bowl 21. I'd like to dedicate the moment to. Yes. Absolutely, brother. Absolutely. But Jack Lummus was drafted by the Giants in 1941, and then he went into the Army. And then Blozis, he was drafted by the Giants in 1942. If you ever wonder why nobody wears the number 32 jersey for the Giants, it's because Blozis. They retired his number, and he was Jack Lummus. He only played like 9 games for the Giants in 1941. He only caught one pass. He was an end. He only caught one pass. I'm sure he was a decent player for the Giants. In 1941, they played in championship. They lost 37-9 to the Bears. The Bears back then, from 1940 to 43, those 4 Bear teams were unfreaking believable. But I said Jack Lummus was an end. He only played 9 games for the Giants, 1941. Then he went into the Army, and I got a couple stories, that I'm going to wind up reading about him and everything. So he only played 1 year for the Giants. Both these guys hardly played at all. But Blozis, he was drafted in I think it was the 5th round. He was from Georgetown, 1942. He only played in 23 games for the Giants. He played in the 42 season, the 43 season, and 44, he played in 2 games. He had to get a leave from the Army to come back and play in the 44 championship game, which happened to be his final game he ever played on this earth. The Giants lost that game 14-7 to the Packers. But so he played in only 23 games for the Giants, but his rookie season, Blozis in 1942, he went to the Pro Bowl. 1943, he was an All-Pro. He was very, very good. Mel Hine, who was on the Giants teams back then. Giants center who won the MVP in the 1938 season as a center. Okay, that's how good he was. So Mel Hein of the Giants said that if Al Blozis was able to play football for any length of time, he said he might have been the greatest tackle of all time. I mean, Al Blozis was 6'6", 250 pounds. He was an unbelievable athlete. To go over some of his accomplishments and everything that he had, like while he was in high school and in college, he was a physical specimen. Let me tell you what, 6'6". He was a big guy, very big guy. But I mean, he was in his 2 short years. He went to the Pro Bowl and he was an All-Pro. And so it just goes to show you how good he was. But both guys very, very special. Both chose serving their country over playing football. An interesting thing was, and once again, it'll be in this stuff that I'm reading with Al Blozis. He was too tall for the military, and it was because of his athletic ability and all of that is basically what was keeping him out of the military. They said, you're just too big, you're too tall. We don't have uniforms for people that big. But he wanted to get in, and he kept fighting and fighting and fighting, and he had a couple fights on his hands. One was he had a fight just to get in to the military, and when he was in the military, he had a fight to get into the front lines. I mean, they basically just had him like in office, like doing, he wanted to fight for his country. So let me go over. I'll do Al Blozis first, and then I'll go to Jack Lummus. So as I said, once again, Al Blozis was number 32 for the Giants, played from 42 to 44, played in grand total 23 games. His number 32 has been retired by the Giants. Let's see here. 1942, he played in 11 games. 1943, he played in 10 games. 1942, let's see, the Redskins went to the championship game that year. They beat the Bears 14-6. 1943, the Giants wound up tied with the Redskins at the end of the season. They had a playoff game, Giants Redskins playoff game to see who would go to the championship game to play the Bears. The Redskins won that game 28-0. So the Redskins in 1943 went to the championship game where they lost to the Bears 41-21. So then 1943, Al Blozis played in 10 games. 1944, he played in just 2 games. So Al Blozis' NFL Giants career lasted a grand total of 23 games. Shame. But let's see here. So Al Blozis, he was offensive tackle. He was born on January 5th, 1919. He passed away January 31st, 1945. Now, the thing with that, him passing away with January 31st, that could be possibly maybe a little debatable because, as we'll read in the story, he left his troops to go looking for two soldiers who never found their way back. So he left, and he never came back alive. Now, exactly what day he got, he got gunned down, we don't know. His bullet-riddled body was found in April. So his body was not found till a couple months later. So now, so when he left his troops, did he die that day? Did he die the very next day? Did he get, he could have been wounded. He could have had a couple maybe one bullet hole and been injured and hung on or whatever for a day or two. And then, so they said he died January 31st. That could be a little debatable, but it is what it is. But I said, but he was 6'6". Just he was a first team All-Pro 1943, NFL All-Star. Wasn't like they don't have a Pro Bowl game, but it was an NFL All-Star in 1942. He only played 23 games, all right, in the 40s, and he was picked. Basically, he played in a little over 2 seasons in the 40s, and he was on the NFL 1940s All-Decade team. Once again, goes to show you how good of an athlete he was. He's in the New York Giants Ring of Honor, and his number 32 has been retired by the Giants. All right, so I got a couple of stories here. Some of them might overlap a little bit and everything like that, but Albert Charles Blozis was an American this is from Wikipedia. Was an American professional football player and track and field athlete who died in World War II. He played offensive tackle for the Giants in the National Football League. Early life. Al Blozis, known as Al, was born on January 5th, 1919 in Garfield, New Jersey, to Lithuanian immigrants. He attended William L. Dickinson High School in Jersey City, New Jersey, where he became well known for his skill in the discus throw and the shot put. At Georgetown University, he won the AAU and the NCAA indoor and outdoor shot titles 3 years in a row. From 1940 to 1942, he had a best shot put of 57 3/4 inches. In 2015, Al Blozis was inducted into the National Track and Field Hall of Fame. Professional football career. I mentioned this is just very short. Blozis was drafted in the 5th round of the 1942 NFL draft and played offensive tackle for the New York Giants. And he also, basically, if you played offensive tackle, he also played defensive tackle too, right? Let's see. He played for the Giants in 1942 and 1943 before entering the military. He was also able to play, it says 3 games. Now, I guess it says played 3 games. Now, I guess that possible. It said he played 2 games in Pro Football Reference, but maybe that's not including the championship games. So maybe Wikipedia is absolutely correct here. He said he played maybe 3 games. I said he played 2. But maybe he played 2 regular season games and the 14-7 lost championship game to the Packers. So that's quite possible here in Wikipedia. Said he played 3 games. So that's possible. I'd say he was able to play in 3 games in 1944 while on furlough. So he had to leave the Army to come back and play in the championship game. Let's see. So World War II and death. In a 1991 news story, the New York Times wrote, curiously, the very size that made him so intimidating on the football field kept him out of the military until late 1943. When, after repeated attempts, Blozis finally persuaded the Army to waive its size limit and accept him, they finally accepted him. But it took further persuading to get him from a desk job to the front lines. They had him in, we'll take you. Okay, all right, I'll put you here at the desk. He didn't want that. He wanted to be on the front line fighting for his country. Yeah, but I heard a video that he's like, why are my countrymen on the front line dying and I'm here in the desk? That didn't sit well with him, so he wanted to be on the front line. Blozis was inducted into the United States Army on December 9, 1943. He was first assigned to duty as a physical instructor at Walter Reed General Hospital and then went through officer training at Fort Benning, where he set this is freaking unbelievable. This is crazy. Where he set the Army's hand grenade throwing record with a toss of 94 yards, 2 feet, 6.5 inches. I don't know. He threw the hand grenade toss. I don't know if that includes if he throws it and it lands and it rolls, or if it was just in the air. I don't know. But he threw a hand grenade almost the length of a football field. Now, if you know how heavy a hand grenade is, to throw a hand grenade that far is unbelievable. Almost the length of a football field. Absolutely unfreaking believable. He was commissioned as a second lieutenant in the 28th Infantry Division on January 31st, 1945. Now, this is maybe where it can get a little sketchy here, okay? His platoon was in, and I do apologize, I'm a frickin' moron. Vosges Mountains of France. Now, Vosges, I'm not exactly sure, so please forgive my stupidity. But his platoon was in the Vosges Mountains of France, scouting enemy lines. When two of his men, a sergeant and a private, failed to return from a patrol, he went in search of them alone. He never returned. Now, once again, so on January, that's the day he disappeared. It was January 31st. Now, 1945. Now, as I said, was that the day he got shot and killed? Was he, did he make it to February 1st? Did he get shot maybe on the 1st and died a couple days? I don't know. But that was the last that anybody saw of him. Let's see here. And he went after the search of him alone. He never returned. Blozis was first listed as missing, but in April 1945, his death was confirmed. Honors. New York Giants retired the number 32 that Blozis had worn. A second Giants player, Jack Lummus, also died in World War II, which I'm going to go over in just a moment here. In April 1946, True Comics featured a story about Blozis entitled The Human Howitzer. The United States Army honored Blozis by naming an athletic center in Frankfurt, Germany after him. He was inducted into the College Football Hall of Fame in 1986. An apartment building in Jersey City, Al Blozis Hall, is named in his honor. He was I want to say not only a phenomenal athlete in the pros, but at Georgetown as well, too. All right, I got this other article here. This another one. It's basically the same thing. And this article here, this is from njsportsheroes.com. Okay, and there's at the top of the article, it shows a picture of the human howitzer. The comic they were talking about. All right, now let's see here. All right, here we go. Al Blozis was born January 5th, 1919 in Garfield, New Jersey. After his family moved to Hudson County, Al attended Dickinson High School in Jersey City. He was the star of the track team, using his 6'6", 230-pound frame to propel the shot put and discus eye-popping distances. The Dickinson basketball and football squads made use of Al's talents too. The football team produced a steady stream of talent during the 1930s, including future NFL running back Joe Salatis and Ed Franco, one of Fordham's 7 blocks of granite. Like Franco, Al played the line. 7 blocks of granite. That was also Vince Lombardi, who coached the Giants from 1954 to 1958, and then he went on to Packers fame, where he brought legendary accomplishments to the Packers. But anyway, recruited primarily as a track athlete, Al accepted a scholarship to Georgetown over Notre Dame. Interesting. And proceeded to rewrite the record books in the shot put. In 1941, he set a world indoor record with a throw of 56 feet, 4.5 inches. He set more than 36 records in this event as a Hoya. Al went on to become the national indoor and outdoor champion in 1942 and again in 1943. So he's like a freshman at Georgetown, setting these records. So or freshman 40, 42, 43. I mean, so so he was doing it year in and year out. I mean, he's just a phenomenal athlete. By this time, Al was a professional football player under the tutelage of Hoya coaches and ex-New York Giants, Jack Haggerty, who was a former Giant, and Mickey Murtaugh. Yes, he was. Absolutely. He overcame the awkwardness associated with his height and became a standout blocker. The coaches later claimed Al would have been an All-American had he not missed 2 practices a week because of his lab work as a chemistry major. Tipped off to his potential by their former players, the Giants took Al in the 5th round of the 1942 draft. He was an all-star as a rookie and earned all-pro honors in his 2nd season. Mel Hein, the all-pro center for the Giants, claimed that Al could have been the greatest tackle who ever played. Hein played beside Al on the offensive line because Hein was the center and 2 players over was the tackle, obviously, with Blozis. But Hein played beside him on the offensive line and behind him on the defense because Blozis was a defensive tackle, but Hein would be like the middle linebacker. I think they called him like the middle guard. But a lot of times he played off the line of scrimmage, off the defensive line. Right, so he was behind him. So he was, I guess, kind of like a middle linebacker. So Mel Hein was behind Al, so he got to see what destruction Al could do while he was on the defensive line. Al was also a great coverage man on kickoffs. He often made tackles before his teammates got within 20 feet of the ball carrier. As a physical specimen, Al was unmatched in the NFL. Arthur Daly of the New York Times described him stripped down to his skivvies as an awe-inspiring sight. So basically, he was 6'6", 250 pounds. So basically, there was no fat on him. Back in the day, back in 1940s, obviously there were muscular players, but maybe they're not quite as cut and trim and all of that as some players are today. Right. But being at 6'6", 250 pounds, there was not much fat on the guy. Tipped off, let's see, Al didn't feel right about playing pro ball while others were fighting. Now he could have played pro ball. He could have rode it out. The Giants were not very good after the 44 season. They got to the championship in 46. They could have used them in the 46 championship game. But after that, 47, 48, 49, the Eagles started winning the division. 1950, the Cleveland Browns entered the National Football League, so they were good. But Al could have just rode it out playing football. He was a chemistry major. Could have lived his life. Maybe had a wife and some children. And chemistry major. Played some football. Might have been in the Hall of Fame. Could have made some money. Could have had a good life. But that didn't set well with Al. That didn't set well with him. Let's see here. He visited more than one enlistment station only to be turned away because he exceeded the military's height limit. Finally, in December of 1943, he persuaded the Army to take him. Al began his military career as a physical instructor at Walter Reed Hospital in Washington, D.C. Like many well-known pro athletes, he was kept out of harm's way and participated in various morale-building functions as part of his service. As a result of his college degree, he started military life as a lieutenant. Later, Al was transferred to Fort Benning in Georgia. There, he set a record by throwing a hand grenade 94 yards. 1944, he was able to get furloughs and play in 3 NFL games for the Giants. So I guess maybe it was 2 regular season games, and I think the third would be the championship game, which would be the final game he'd ever play in his NFL career. Al wasn't happy as an instructor and lobbied to join the fighting in Europe. He was commissioned as a captain and sent to France. In January 1945, his platoon was in the mountains of France on the French-German border when 2 of his men failed to return from a scouting mission. Al went after them alone. He was never seen again. Al's bullet-riddled body wasn't found until April 1945. So it wasn't found until over 2 months later. In 1986, though, long forgotten by most football fans, Al was enshrined in the College Football Hall of Fame. So, just goes to show you, he was not only a giant among men, but just an absolutely phenomenal athlete. in college, in the pros, and once again, somebody we need to, we just don't, you just don't thank enough. You couldn't possibly thank enough. He gave it all. He gave it his all. And, once again, Al, thank you, brother. All right, the next one we got is Jack Lummus. I said he only played one season for the Giants. These guys got drafted. Lummus was 1941. Al Blozis was 1942. So, these are two fine athletes, fine football players. Once again, it was the war. Unfortunately, the war claimed many, many lives, and these two particular outstanding human beings / football players, had their lives taken from them. But Jack only, as I said, he only played 9 games. It was a short career. He caught one pass. I think it was for 5 yards. Right. All right. So let's see. So I got a couple of articles on Jack here as well, too. Now this guy was just, it was just kind of like what Al, not to diminish anything Al did in the fighting, but what Jack was doing at this story, he was leading his men and all that stuff, and it's just unbelievable. Absolutely unbelievable. So this one's, Jack's kind of long here. Let's see here. All right. So his biography. This is straight out of Wikipedia. Okay. Then I have another little article here I'll read. Jack was born in Ellis County, Texas, on a cotton farm. He was the youngest child and only son of 4, born to Andrew Jackson Lummus Sr. and Laura Frances Lummus. He attended Ennis High School from September 31 through May 1934, where he was a star in football and track. He received all district honors for football in his sophomore and junior years. He dropped out before the end of his senior year due to the views of his family that the cost of graduating, such as buying a picture and gown, were too wasteful, and considering the ongoing depression. This may also have been affected by a case of influenza he contracted. He finished his high school education at Texas Military College on a 2-year sports scholarship and won all conference honors for his participation in football. He graduated on May 28, 1937, receiving scholarship offers from Baylor University and Tulane University. He enrolled at Baylor on September 14, 1937. There, he was an All-Southwest Conference center fielder for 3 years and an outstanding end on the football team. Those 3 years, the Bears finished 3rd in baseball, and Lummus was considered to be the best center fielder that had ever played for Baylor. In football, he played first-string end wearing number 53. For 2 consecutive years, he was nominated by the Associated Press to the All-American team, and in 1938, he made honorable mention for the team. He was sometimes compared to Sam Boyd. Not sure who that is. Before he left Baylor, he signed a minor league baseball contract with the Wichita Falls Spudders and uniform player contract with the New York Giants. On May 26, 1941, an Army Air Corps recruiter came to the school. Lummus and 25 other students enlisted in the Air Corps and signed up for a civilian flying school as a result of this visit. While waiting for the Air Corps to call him, Lummus inexplicably dropped out of Baylor. He was going to graduate soon, and his academic records showed satisfactory grades. The ongoing war in Europe was brought to have influenced this decision. After dropping out, Lummus joined the Class D Spudders of the West Texas New Mexico League. He played right and center field. On July 6, 1941, he played his 26th and last game for the Spudders. The Army Air Corps had called on him to honor his enlistment papers. In those 26 games, he batted .257. Lummus reported to Hicksfield, 40 miles northwest of Fort Worth, Texas, to enroll in the flight school there that was licensed by the Army but run by civilians. While making his first solo flight, he flew the flight plan and landed without flaw. While taxiing on the runway, however, he accidentally clipped a fence with his wingtip, washing him out of flight school. New York Giants career. He then traveled to the New York Giants training camp in Superior, Wisconsin. As one of the 30 players who made the Giants roster, he wore number 29. He had signed on as a free agent and received a $100 monthly salary. He made the team as a rookie end and played in 9 games. On December 7, 1941, the Giants were playing their arch rival, the Brooklyn Dodgers. The Dodgers won that day 21-7. Around halftime, the Associated Press ticker in the press box gave out a message saying, "Airplanes identified as Japanese have attacked the American naval base at Pearl Harbor." The players continued the game knowing nothing of the attack. I heard different stories. Some players knew at halftime. Ward Cuff said, I think they knew at halftime. And some people knew. Some people said they knew. Some people said they knew nothing. So it's hard to know. But here it says that it said, the players continue playing the game knowing nothing of the attack. As I said, I've heard stories where some players did know. So the Giants lost, but went on to play the Chicago Bears in the NFL championship game in 1941, where they lost 37-9. On October 11, 2015, the Giants honored Lummus by inducting him into the New York Giants Ring of Honor. Well, it was much overdue. He died in what, 44, 45? So it took him, 55, 60, it took him almost 70 years to put him in the Ring of Honor. It's not like they were retiring his number or something. I think that was well overdue. But anyway, his military career. After the championship game, Lummus enlisted in the Marine Corps Reserve on January 3rd, 1942. After finished basic training at the Main Side Recruit Training Center in San Diego, California, he was assigned to Camp Elliott, 10 miles north of San Diego. There he joined the Devil Dogs. I love that snack, boy. Let me tell you what. The San Diego Marine Corps Baseball Club was called the Devil Dogs. In May 1942, he was sent to busy seaport of Mare Island as a military policeman. There he joined another baseball club. On June 10th, he was promoted to private first class, and 2 months later, he was promoted to corporal. On October 18th, he enrolled at the officers' training school at Quantico, Virginia. He graduated on December 18th and received a commission as a second lieutenant. He was sent back to California and was assigned to the elite Marine Raiders at Camp Pendleton. When the Marine Raiders were dissolved, he was assigned to the 27th Marines, 5th Marine Division. In January 1944, he was assigned as executive officer, Company F, 2nd Battalion, 27th Marines. In August 1944, the division was transferred to Camp Tarawa, outside of Waimea, Hawaii. Lummus boarded the USS Henry Clay for the trip. After 4 months of training, the division was assigned to the V Amphibious Corps and would fight to take the island of Iwo Jima. Just absolutely, unbelievably horrible fight, horrible battle. So Iwo Jima. Lummus was in the first wave of troops to land at Iwo Jima on February 19, 1945. He landed at 9 a.m. on the beach known as Red 1. He and his platoon spent the next 2 weeks incessantly fighting the dug-in Japanese. His initial duty was a liaison officer for the 2nd Battalion, spotting targets on the slopes of Mount Suribachi for artillery and airstrikes. On March 6th, he was given command of Company's E's 3rd Rifle Platoon. On March 8th, his platoon was spearheading a final assault on an objective east of Kitano Point, near the northern edge of the island. Despite minor wounds received from grenade fragmentation, I heard he got knocked over like 2 different times when grenades blew up. But so he had minor wounds from these 2 grenade attacks. Lummus knocked out 3 enemy strongholds, well-fortified positions arranged to defend each other, which was preventing his platoon from reaching its objective. Following this action, he stepped on a landmine and was mortally wounded, losing both his legs were blown off. While laying on the ground, he urged his platoon on, and he was carried off to an aid station. At the aid station, he famously told the doctor, Thomas M. Brown, "Well, Doc, the New York Giants just lost the services of a mighty good end today." Yes, they did. He was transferred to the field hospital where he underwent surgery and a transfusion of 18 pints of blood, but died of internal wounds on the operating table. He was buried in Plot 5, Row 13, grave 1244 in the 5th Division Cemetery. His body was later moved to Ennis, Texas. In a letter to his mother, Lummus' commanding officer wrote, "Jack suffered very little, for he didn't live long. I saw Jack soon after he was hit. With calmness, serenity, and complacency," Jack said, "the New York Giants lost a good man." And then he also wrote, "We all lost a good man." So that was one story. And this other one here, this is from the National WW2 Museum. First Lieutenant Jack Lummus, Medal of Honor. Jack Lummus wasn't like most of his fellow Marines. He was older, served a brief stint in the Army Air Corps before washing out of flight school, and he was a professional athlete. Born in Ennis, Texas, Lummus was an exceptional high school athlete and received scholarship offers from Baylor and Tulane. So a lot of this is going to maybe overlap and everything. Lummus received reasons for dropping out was likely that he had enlisted in the Army Air Corps in May of 1941. While waiting to be called on for flight school, he played on a minor league baseball team. Talked about that. Let's see. After he got washed out of flight school, he weighed his option. Lummus attended the Giants training camp and made the 1941 roster wearing the number 29. Lummus played 9 games with the Giants, who made the championship that year. The big game was when he played 2 weeks after the attack on Pearl Harbor, and only a few weeks after the Lummus once again walked away from the promising athletic career. He joined the Marine Corps in 1942. Let's see. On March 6th, Lummus was put in command of E Company's 3rd Rifle Platoon. 2 days later, the platoon was at the spearhead of an assault on an objective near Catano Point. Lummus's athleticism and win-at-all-costs attitude instilled courage and then anger in his men. As Lummus charged forward, assaulting pillboxes on his own, his men watched as he survived several shrapnel hits, only to step on a landmine. Despite horrific damage to his legs, Lummus continued to push his men forward, demanding that they not stop for him. In his book, Iwo Jima, Legacy of Valor, combat correspondent and author Bill Ross explained the effect that Lummus's severe wounds had on his men. Tears turned to raging fury as Easy Company swept ahead at an incredible 300 yards, overwhelming foxholes and pillboxes and bunkers, bolting across ravines and scrambling up ridges, blasting cave entrances and sniper pits. The spark that ignited the steamroller charge was the horrifying sight of their mortally wounded, indomitable commander and his fathomless courage. Seeing him, the men knew what they had to do. Lummus was triaged and evacuated to the 5th Division Hospital, where doctors did all they could to save his life. Despite 18 pints of blood transfusions and their best efforts, the damage to Lummus's body was just too much, even for his athletic frame. Before he died, Lummus said to one of the surgeons, "I guess the New York Giants have lost the services of a damn good end." A few hours later, Lummus asked for a sip of coffee, after which he laid back, closed his eyes, and smiled as he took his last breath. First Lieutenant Jack Lummus was only 29 years old. Absolutely freaking unbelievable. Just just what these guys did, what these guys gave. It's just, you can never thank them enough. I said one of the reasons why I'm basically able to sit here. It's 3 o'clock in the morning. I'm in my home in South Jersey, basically in my pajamas. After I got done with this video, I'm going to bed. It's because of guys like this, not just obviously these two particular, but anybody, these two and anybody who's served in the military, armed forces, whatever, men, women. Well, thank you. You guys are absolutely one of the biggest reasons why we live in the greatest country in the world. So thank you so much. And to Al Blozis and Jack Lummus, once again, guys, thank you so much. You truly two giants among men. I'll see you next time.